If you say Ferris Bueller, you lose a testicle.
You think you know Ferris Bueller, but there is a dark side to this 80s classic that was hidden from audiences. From a deleted scene so disturbing it was scrubbed from existence, to a real-life tragedy on set that permanently alters the ending.
Bueller.
Cameron, babe, get dressed and come on over.
In the original script, where Ferris wasn't a hero, he was a villain.
Ill, headache, fever.
Here are 30 bizarre facts that will change how you watch this movie forever.
It's not that I condone fascism, or any ism for that matter. Isms, in my opinion, are not good.
Number 30. Ferris Bueller's Day Off is one of the most memorable movie titles ever. Punchy, clear, perfect. It almost didn't exist. Hughes' original working title was The Young Man and the Day, which sounds less like a teen comedy and more like a pretentious French art film. Studio executives immediately recognized the problem. The title told audiences nothing about the movie's tone, energy, or appeal. Hughes resisted at first, arguing the original title was more poetic. But when test audiences showed confusion about what kind of movie they were about to watch, he relented. The switch to Ferris Bueller's Day Off changed everything. Suddenly, the title promised exactly what the movie delivered: a specific character having a specific adventure. The name Ferris Bueller itself became iconic, rhythmic, and instantly memorable. Sometimes the simplest choice is the right one. And honestly, The Young Man and the Day sounds like a cure for insomnia.
Hi, Ferris, how's your bod? Oh my God, you're dying?
Number 29. You know how most teen comedies could be set anywhere? Not this one. John Hughes designed Ferris Bueller as a deliberate celebration of Chicago's architecture, culture, and attitude. Every location was chosen to showcase the city's landmarks, from the Art Institute to Wrigley Field to the Chicago Board of Trade. Hughes wanted the film to feel like a love letter to his adopted hometown, making Chicago itself a character in the story. The parade scene, the museum visits, even the modernist homes weren't random backdrops. They were carefully selected showcases of what made Chicago unique in the mid-80s. Hughes believed the city's energy matched Ferris's rebellious spirit perfectly. The result? Chicago tourism officials later credited the film with boosting the city's image as a destination for young people. Ferris didn't just skip school. He gave an entire generation a guided tour of Chicago cool.
Lean forward against the glass like this.
The city looks so peaceful from up here.
Anything is peaceful from 1,353 feet.
Number 28. You'd think a movie celebrating Chicago would film there entirely. Not quite. Ferris's bedroom, the house exterior, and several Chicago suburb scenes were actually shot in Long Beach, California. Hughes needed more filming time than the Chicago weather and schedule allowed, so production moved west for interiors and some exteriors. The house used for Ferris's home was a Long Beach residence that looked convincingly Midwestern enough to pass. Most audiences never noticed the switch because Hughes was careful to maintain visual continuity with Chicago shot scenes. The irony? A movie designed as a love letter to Chicago partially faked its Chicago-ness. But Hughes made it work by focusing the actual Chicago footage on landmarks that could never be replicated elsewhere. So yes, Ferris skipped school in Chicago, but he woke up in California. Peak 1980s movie magic, everyone.
How could I possibly be expected to handle school on a day like this?
Number 27. $8,000 synth in a teen's bedroom. Look closely at Ferris's bedroom. That keyboard isn't a toy. It's an EMU Emulator 2, a professional-grade digital sampling synthesizer that cost around $8,000 in 1986 dollars. For perspective, that's roughly $22,000 today. The same gear used by Depeche Mode, New Order, and other major 1980s acts. Hughes included it to establish Ferris as wealthy without being explicit about it. No dialogue explains the synth. It just sits there, casually signaling that Ferris comes from serious money. The detail also reinforces Ferris's sophistication. He's not just skipping school. He's a kid with refined taste in music technology, architecture, and culture. The synth, like the Ferrari subplot, quietly communicates class privilege. Most audiences missed it entirely, but musicians and synth nerds absolutely noticed. That keyboard became a minor cult object among fans who understood exactly what they were looking at.
Where are you?
I'm taking a day off. Now get dressed and come on over.
Can't, stupid. I'm sick.
Come on over.
Number 26. Ferris changes outfits 9 times before 10 a.m. Watch Ferris closely during the film's first act. He changes clothes 9 times before 10 a.m. This wasn't a continuity error. Hughes deliberately had Ferris appear in different outfits to reinforce his mythic everywhere at once quality. The constant wardrobe changes make Ferris feel less like a real teenager and more like a shape-shifting trickster figure. Most audiences don't consciously notice the outfit changes, but they subconsciously register that something feels off about Ferris's presence. He seems to exist in multiple places and states simultaneously, breaking normal rules of time and space. The detail adds to the film's dreamlike quality. Is this really happening, or is it Ferris's fantasy? The impossible wardrobe changes suggest reality is more fluid than it appears. Speaking of things that seem impossible, remember that scene that was cut so fast it never saw the light of day? We'll get to that.
If Ferris thinks that he can just coast through this month and still graduate, he is sorely mistaken.
Number 25. Ben Stein's deadpan economics teacher became one of the most quoted characters in the film. Bueller, Bueller.
Bueller, Bueller.
He was never supposed to be in front of the camera. Hughes originally hired Stein as a historical consultant to ensure the script's economic references were accurate. Stein had worked in the Nixon administration and genuinely knew his stuff. During a production meeting, Stein casually delivered a dry explanation of economic theory in his trademark monotone voice. Hughes immediately realized he'd found his teacher. Within days, Stein was on set delivering the Voodoo Economics lecture. The entire classroom scene was barely scripted. Stein essentially taught a real economics lesson while the cameras rolled. The students' glazed expressions. Genuine boredom from listening to actual economic theory. The casting accident created one of cinema's most memorable minor characters. Sometimes the best performances come from people who weren't trying to perform at all. Number 24. Ferris Bueller's Day Off takes place in spring. It was filmed in autumn. Everything you see is a carefully constructed lie. Production shot in late September and October 1985, when Chicago's leaves were turning brown and falling. To create the illusion of spring, the art department spent weeks painting dead and dying leaves green. Entire trees were artificially restored to spring colors. The result is a film that looks subtly unnatural if you pay close attention. The greens are slightly too vivid, slightly too uniform. The light has autumn's angle, but spring's color palette. Most audiences never notice consciously, but the artificial seasons contribute to the film's dreamlike, slightly off-kilter quality. Nothing is quite what it seems. Hughes needed Chicago sunshine and couldn't wait for actual spring. So he faked it. And like everything else in Ferris Bueller, the fakery became part of the magic.
I want you out in front of the school with her. I'd like to have a few words with you, by God.
Number 23. Matthew Broderick was 23 playing a high school senior. Not unusual for Hollywood. Alan Ruck was 29. That's nearly a decade older than his character. Cameron Fry was supposed to be 17 or 18. Ruck was approaching 30. The movie never acknowledges this. No one questions it. Audiences didn't notice or didn't care. The illusion held perfectly because the performances sold teenage energy regardless of actual age. Hughes cast for emotional truth, not chronological accuracy. Broderick had boyish charm. Ruck captured teenage anxiety despite his age. The emotional resonance mattered more than birth dates. Hollywood has always done this, but Ferris Bueller might be the most successful example of age-inappropriate casting working flawlessly. Ruck's maturity actually helped Cameron feel more worn down, more beaten by life. Sometimes the wrong actor is exactly right. And no teenager ever looked at Cameron and thought, that man is 29.
That's it. I want out of this family.
Number 22. Cameron was nearly Emilio Estevez. Before Alan Ruck became Cameron Fry, Emilio Estevez was offered the role. He turned it down. Estevez was riding high from The Breakfast Club and St. Elmo's Fire. He had his pick of projects and felt Cameron was too similar to characters he'd already played. He wanted to avoid being typecast as the sensitive, troubled kid. Hughes was disappointed but moved on quickly. When Ruck auditioned, Hughes saw something even better. Genuine vulnerability mixed with sharp comic timing. Ruck wasn't a Brat Pack member. He wasn't carrying star baggage. He could disappear into Cameron completely. The rejection worked out perfectly. Estevez went on to other roles. Ruck made Cameron an unforgettable portrait of teenage anxiety and depression. Sometimes the person who says no does everyone a favor. Cameron needed an actor who could be vulnerable without being cool. Ruck delivered that perfectly.
Shit, I hope he doesn't die. Can't handle summer school.
Number 21. Ferris was almost played by everyone. Before Matthew Broderick became Ferris, the role was offered to practically every young male actor in Hollywood. Jim Carrey auditioned. Tom Cruise was considered. John Cusack met with Hughes. Michael J. Fox was approached, but couldn't escape his Back to the Future schedule. Robert Downey Jr. read for it. The list goes on. Hughes saw dozens of actors, and each would have created a completely different Ferris. Carrey would have been manic. Cruise would have been intense. Cusack would have been neurotic. Fox would have been charming but grounded. Broderick brought something none of them had. Effortless likability without edge. He made Ferris feel innocent, even while manipulating everyone around him. That balance between mischief and wholesomeness was impossible to replicate. The role could have gone many directions, but Broderick made Ferris feel inevitable, like no one else could have done it. That's the mark of perfect casting.
Oh, Sloan, dear. Hurry along now.
I guess that's my dad.
Number 20. Mia Sara played Sloane Peterson with an air of mature sophistication that made her seem older than her classmates. She carried herself like someone already beyond high school drama. She was 18 during filming. Barely out of high school herself, Hughes later admitted he'd assumed Sara was in her early 20s when he cast her, only realizing her actual age after production began. The age gap between Sara and her co-stars added an unintentional dynamic to the film. Broderick was 23, playing younger. Ruck was 29, playing much younger. Sara was actually close to high school age, but playing mature beyond her years. Somehow it worked. Sloane feels like the most grounded character in the movie, possibly because Sara brought genuine teenage energy rather than an adult's performance of teenagerhood. Youth playing youth, just with better composure than most 18-year-olds could manage.
I get up.
No.
I have a test today.
No.
Number 19. Ferris's iconic opening tutorial on faking sick was filmed last and largely improvised by Matthew Broderick. Hughes wrote a basic outline of the scene, but told Broderick to riff on it, adding whatever felt natural. The clammy hands, the phony cough, the specific techniques, those came from Broderick's delivery, not the script. Filming the opening last gave Broderick weeks to inhabit Ferris completely. By the time cameras rolled on the tutorial, he understood the character so deeply that improvisation felt effortless. The result is one of cinema's great direct-address performances. Ferris feels like he's genuinely talking to you, not reciting lines. That intimacy came from Broderick's comfort with the character and Hughes' willingness to let him play. The scene that introduces Ferris to the world was built on trust, timing, and creative freedom, and it shows. Number 18. Parade scene shot inside a real parade. The Twist and Shout parade sequence is one of cinema's most joyful moments. It was filmed during Chicago's actual Von Steuben Day parade, with real spectators who had no idea they were in a movie. Hughes secured permits to place Matthew Broderick on a real parade float during the September 1985 event. Most parade goers assumed he was part of the planned entertainment. When Broderick started lip-syncing Twist and Shout, the crowd naturally joined in. The dancing, singing, and genuine joy captured on camera? Real Chicagoans having spontaneous fun. Hughes stationed cameras throughout the parade route to capture authentic reactions. Some spectators later realized they'd been in a movie when Ferris Bueller hit theaters. Others never knew. The scene's authenticity comes from actual people experiencing actual joy. You can't fake that kind of energy. Hughes knew it, so he captured reality instead. Number 17. The iconic scene where Cameron destroys the Ferrari by kicking it through the glass wall required extreme preparation. Every pane of glass had to be removed from the house. The problem? The Ben Rose house featured custom glass installed decades earlier with a specific age tint that couldn't be matched with modern replacements. If they broke even one pane during filming, it would be irreplaceable. So the production crew carefully removed every piece of glass before shooting the crash. The glass wall the Ferrari crashes through was actually empty space. Stunt coordinators calculated the car's trajectory to ensure it wouldn't hit the actual structure. After filming, the real glass was reinstalled and the house remained intact. But for that one shot, a priceless architectural landmark was temporarily stripped of its most defining feature. The risk was enormous. The shot was worth it. Peak Hughes' obsession with getting it right.
I've got it right here in front of me. He has missed 9 days.
I asked for a car, I got a computer. How's that for being born under a bad sign?
Number 16. John Hughes wrote the entire Ferris Bueller's Day Off screenplay in less than a week. 6 days, start to finish, with minimal revisions afterward. Hughes was known for writing fast, but this was extreme even for him. He'd been developing the Ferris character in his mind for months, so when he finally sat down to write, the story poured out fully formed. And that detail about Ferris hacking the school computer, based on reality. In the early 1980s, Chicago area high school students were actually breaking into school computer systems to alter grades and attendance records. The practice made local news, catching Hughes' attention. Hughes included it to ground Ferris's rebellion in contemporary reality. This wasn't just fantasy. This was the cutting edge of teen mischief in 1986. The script required almost no rewriting. Sometimes the best work comes fast because it's been brewing slowly for much longer. Did you watch Ferris Bueller as a kid, whether in theaters, on VHS, or during cable reruns? Which character did you relate to most? Ferris, Cameron, or Sloane? Tell us in the comments. Number 15. Ferris's house fills with flowers, balloons, and get-well gifts throughout the day. There's one problem. No one's home to accept deliveries. Both parents are at work, Ferris is out gallivanting, Jeannie is at school until later. Yet the house accumulates a ridiculous amount of sympathy gifts with no one there to receive them. Hughes never explains this. The deliveries just appear, defying basic logic. Either the Buellers leave their door unlocked for random delivery people, or the gifts materialize through sheer force of Ferris's reputation. It's a small absurdity that most viewers never consciously notice, but adds to the film's slightly unreal atmosphere. Things happen around Ferris that shouldn't be possible. Reality bends to accommodate his narrative. The impossible deliveries are another hint that we're not watching realism. We're watching a teenage fever dream where logistics don't apply. Number 14. Near the end of the film, Principal Rooney gets picked up by a school bus. It's evening, well after 6 p.m. School buses don't run that late. The scene is absurd on its face, but most viewers are too caught up in Rooney's humiliation to question the logistics. Why is a school bus running at that hour? Where's it going? Why is it picking up random adults? Hughes included the moment as pure comedy without worrying about realism. Rooney's degradation required a school bus for symbolic reasons, his complete failure as an authority figure visualized by being reduced to a student's mode of transportation. The impossible timing is just part of the film's loose relationship with reality. Ferris Bueller doesn't care about your questions regarding bus schedules. It's peak Looney Tunes logic inserted into a realistic Chicago, and somehow it works perfectly. Priorities, people.
Hello?
Cameron, babe, what's happening?
Number 13. Cameron's glass-walled house wasn't a movie set. It's the Ben Rose House, a genuine modernist architectural landmark designed by architects A. James Spire and David Haid in 1953. The home, located in Highland Park, Illinois, is considered one of the finest examples of mid-century modern residential architecture in America. Its floating pavilion design and extensive glass walls were revolutionary for the era. Hughes specifically sought out the house because he wanted Cameron's emotional breakdown to happen in a space that represented his father's values. Cold, modernist perfection. Expensive, but emotionally empty. The architecture wasn't just a backdrop, it was a character representing everything crushing Cameron. The owners agreed to let Hughes film there with strict conditions. Nothing could be damaged. That promise made the Ferrari crash scene infinitely more complicated to shoot. The house still exists today and is protected as an architectural landmark. Cameron's breakdown happened in a real piece of American design history.
The 1961 Ferrari 250 GT, California.
Number 12. The 1961 Ferrari 250 GT California in the movie looks authentic. It's worth millions today. It was completely fake. The Ferrari was a fiberglass replica built on a Ford engine. Real Ferrari 250 GTs were already worth hundreds of thousands in 1986, far too valuable to destroy on camera. So the production commissioned 3 replica cars for different scenes. Yet audiences mourn the car's destruction as if it were real. The emotional impact doesn't require authenticity. What matters is what the Ferrari represents: wealth, parental authority, consequence. Cameron's father's obsession with the car, loving it more than his son, works because we believe the car is valuable. The actual dollar amount is irrelevant. The symbolic value is everything. The fake Ferrari created real emotion. The destruction was fiberglass and foam, but the catharsis was genuine. Sometimes illusion serves truth better than reality ever could.
I do have a test today. That wasn't bullshit.
Number 11. John Hughes' first assembly of Ferris Bueller ran 2 hours and 45 minutes, nearly an hour longer than the theatrical version. The original cut included extended subplots, additional Rooney scenes, more character development for Jeannie, and entire sequences that never made it to theaters. Hughes had envisioned a longer, more complex film that explored darker edges of Ferris's manipulation. Test audiences loved the movie, but felt it dragged in places. Hughes began cutting ruthlessly, removing anything that slowed momentum or complicated Ferris's likability. The strip club subplot? Gone. Extended family dynamics? Cut. Deeper exploration of Cameron's home life? Trimmed. What remained was a tighter, faster, more purely enjoyable film. But that lost hour contained a different, more morally ambiguous Ferris. Hughes later said the cuts were necessary, but he occasionally wondered what audiences would have thought of the darker, longer version. We'll never know.
Entre nous, I'm very busy here. Why don't you take the kids and go back to the clubhouse?
Are you suggesting that I'm not who I say I am?
Number 10. An entire subplot involving a strip club was filmed and subsequently cut from the final movie. It would have changed Ferris Bueller completely. The sequence showed the trio stumbling into an adult establishment during their Chicago adventure. The scene was played for comedy, but pushed the film's tone into much darker, more transgressive territory. Test audiences reacted poorly. The scene felt out of place with the rest of the film's innocent rebellion. More critically, it would have guaranteed an R rating, killing the movie's appeal to actual teenagers. Hughes cut the entire subplot without hesitation. He later said keeping it would have been a disaster, transforming Ferris from lovable trickster into something more morally questionable. The scene was never released, and no footage has surfaced publicly, but its existence reminds us how close Ferris Bueller came to being a completely different, much darker film.
My old man pushes me around.
I never say anything!
Number 9. Cameron John Hughes made an unusual choice. He shot Ferris Bueller largely in chronological story order, specifically to break Alan Ruck emotionally. Most films shoot out of sequence for logistical reasons. Hughes deliberately avoided this. He wanted Cameron's emotional collapse to build naturally across the production, with Ruck experiencing the character's journey in real time. As filming progressed, Ruck found himself genuinely exhausted and emotionally raw. The breakdown in Cameron's father's garage wasn't just acting. It was the culmination of weeks of accumulated tension and emotional excavation. Hughes essentially engineered Cameron's breakdown by structuring production to mirror the character's arc. It was manipulative filmmaking, but it produced one of the most authentic teenage breakdown scenes ever captured. Ruck later said the experience was grueling, but resulted in his best work. Sometimes the cruelest creative choices produce the most honest performances. Method filmmaking at its most extreme.
My father will come home, you see what I did. I can't hide this. I don't care, I really don't.
Number 8. Cameron Fry wasn't fictional. He was based on a real childhood friend of John Hughes who felt invisible and crushed by parental expectations. Hughes grew up with a kid who embodied everything Cameron represents: anxiety, depression, feeling unloved by wealthy parents who measured worth in achievements and possessions. That friend struggled with the same sense of invisibility and worthlessness that defines Cameron's character. The car destruction scene? Inspired by something the real kid fantasized about but never had the courage to do. Cameron's breakdown was Hughes giving his childhood friend the cathartic moment he'd needed. Hughes never publicly identified the real person, protecting his privacy. But everyone who knew Hughes in his youth recognized elements of that friend in Cameron. The character's authenticity comes from lived observation. Cameron isn't a teen movie archetype. He's a portrait of someone Hughes actually knew and wanted to save, even if only in fiction.
I meant, are you in here for drugs? Why don't you go home?
Why don't you put your thumb up your butt?
Number 7. Charlie Sheen's brief appearance as the drugged-out kid in the police station is genuinely unsettling. That hollow stare isn't acting, it's physical collapse. Sheen stayed awake for 48 hours straight before filming the scene to achieve the burned-out, strung-out look Hughes wanted. No makeup tricks, no performance, just genuine sleep deprivation creating genuine physical deterioration. The method worked horrifyingly well. Sheen looks legitimately unwell in the scene, his eyes unfocused and his movements sluggish. That's what 2 days without sleep does to a human body. Hughes was reportedly disturbed by how effective the technique was, later questioning whether he should have asked Sheen to do it. Sheen, young and committed, saw it as dedication to craft. The scene lasts maybe 90 seconds. Sheen suffered for 2 days for 90 seconds of screen time. That's the kind of commitment, or madness, that defines method performance. Number 6. A deleted joke about Ferris being the first kid on a space shuttle was removed after the Challenger disaster, showing how real-world tragedy can instantly poison fiction. The line was in the original script and possibly filmed. It was a throwaway gag about Ferris's mythic status. Then, in January 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded 73 seconds after launch, killing all 7 crew members, including teacher Krista McAuliffe. The joke became impossible overnight. What had been playful suddenly felt grotesque. Hughes cut it immediately, refusing to let the film reference a tragedy that had devastated the country. The removal was the right decision, but it demonstrates how fragile comedy can be. A single real-world event can transform harmless jokes into offensive disasters. Ferris Bueller was lucky, the line got cut. But its existence reminds us how close the film came to being remembered for a horrible reason. Number 5. To lock in the energy for the parade scene, John Hughes blasted Twist and Shout every single morning of production, for 56 consecutive days. Not just during parade filming. Every day, from the first day of shooting until wrap. The entire cast and crew started their mornings with the Beatles track at full volume, regardless of what scene they were shooting that day. Hughes believed the song's energy needed to saturate the production, becoming part of the film's DNA. He wanted everyone so familiar with the rhythm and joy of the song that it would feel natural when they finally shot the parade sequence. The strategy worked, but it drove some crew members to near madness. By week 3, several people begged Hughes to stop. He refused. That parade scene's infectious energy built on 2 months of psychological conditioning. Peak directorial obsession, everyone. Number 4. The baseball footage in Ferris Bueller comes from a real Cubs game, but the dates don't match the movie's timeline. The parade footage shows floats and banners indicating a specific date in the story. However, the Cubs game Ferris and friends attend was filmed weeks earlier, during a completely different game than the timeline suggests. Hughes knew about the discrepancy, but didn't care. He needed good crowd shots and energetic baseball footage, and the specific game date was irrelevant to the story's emotional truth. So he used whatever footage worked best visually. Film nerds and Cubs fans eventually noticed. They've spent decades documenting exactly which game was used and why the timeline is impossible. But for 99% of audiences, it doesn't matter. The scene works, the joy is real, and the impossible calendar is just another piece of Ferris's dreamlike logic. Details matter until they don't. Number 3. On August 5th, 1987, shortly after filming wrapped, Matthew Broderick and Jennifer Grey were involved in a car accident in Northern Ireland that killed 2 women, Margaret Doherty and her daughter Anna Gallagher. Broderick was driving on the wrong side of the road when his rented BMW collided head-on with the victim's vehicle. He suffered serious injuries and remembered nothing of the crash. Grey suffered severe whiplash. The 2 women died at the scene. The tragedy occurred while Broderick was at the height of his Ferris Bueller fame, the carefree, consequence-free character completely at odds with causing real deaths. He was convicted of careless driving and fined $175, no jail time. The accident permanently haunted both actors. Grey later said it destroyed her rising career psychologically. Broderick rarely discusses it publicly. Ferris skips consequences. Matthew Broderick lived them. The irony is devastating and unavoidable. Number 2. In 2002, Jeffrey Jones, who played Principal Rooney, was arrested and convicted of possession of child pornography and soliciting a minor. The crimes permanently recontextualize his character's obsessive pursuit of students. Scenes of Rooney creeping around the Bueller house, sneaking through windows, obsessing over a teenage boy's whereabouts, these were comedy in 1986. After Jones's conviction, they became deeply morally uncomfortable. The film hasn't been banned or removed from circulation, but many viewers can no longer watch Rooney's scenes without revulsion. The performance is tainted by the performer's real-life crimes. Hughes couldn't have known, no one could, but the uncomfortable reality remains. A man later convicted of crimes against children played a character defined by inappropriate fixation on a teenager. Ferris Bueller's Day Off remains a classic, but Principal Rooney will forever carry the shadow of Jeffrey Jones's real-world horrors. Number 1. Here's the truth that changes everything. The strip club scene wasn't just cut for the rating. Test audiences saw a different version of Ferris Bueller, where the day off went way too far. That deleted scene showed Ferris dragging his friends into an adult club during their Chicago adventure. The footage was shot, people watched it, and they hated it. Audiences stopped liking Ferris completely. Cutting that scene saved the entire movie. Without it, Ferris Bueller wouldn't be a fun comedy about skipping school. It would be remembered as the movie that ruined everything, that made Ferris look like a bad influence instead of a lovable troublemaker. One scene, one decision to cut it. That's the difference between a classic and a failure. Hughes understood. Sometimes what you remove matters more than what you keep. The scene you never saw is the reason you love this movie. And there you have it, 30 shocking and bizarre facts about Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Which facts surprised you the most? And which ones did we miss? Tell us in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the 80s most beloved comedies, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with that friend who still quotes Bueller, Bueller at every opportunity.